You're now listening to Signed In Private Chat featuring Dead Space 2, record on February 5th, 2011. Find us online at signedinpodcast.com. Hey everybody, welcome to Signed In Private Chat. I am Jeremy Superfurrow33.
It's private. I'm Greg. I'm Professor Dresser.
I
almost forgot.
You don't have to whisper, though.
Oh.
He screwed it up.
I did.
Nobody whisper.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Sean Shonix.
Sean, don't whisper. Jeremy doesn't like it.
I'm trying not to.
Okay.
Hey everybody, welcome to
That
our
was just
private
to you. That
chat
was a private chat with you.
for Dead Space 2,
Yes.
which we reserve for the cream of the crop.
What,
Right?
private types or private types?
Private chats.
Ah, shit.
It's going to be that kind of show.
It is.
Yes.
So this will be supplemental to our regular discussion on Dead
Oh, yeah.
Space 2, which was on episode 62. So check that out first, just some overview of the game, because that's probably a little more in-depth to gameplay-wise than we're going to talk about on here. This is going to be more concerned with specific spoiler-type stuff.
Oh, it's concerned, all right.
Story-wise, that we didn't want to ruin for folks.
Yep.
But if you finish the game, or if you just don't care about spoilers, we're welcome to have you on here. And
And I'm going to say just random shit, too, just to test you, to make sure, to separate the people who played the game and who are listening to try and spoil it for themselves.
so spot all the what's wrong with this pictures and email us.
Now we need a contest.
Email us the things that we made
Damn.
up.
I wish I had actually thought of this before the
We
show.
will.
True.
No, we will
That'd been
do it.
awesome.
Next private chat.
There you
That
go,
makes
yeah.
sense.
No, I
That'd
probably
be
will.
Awesome.
That is fantastic.
That makes sense. That is.
Although then we're accountable for any mistakes that we make naturally.
That's all right. We judge the results, so who cares?
That's true.
Good point. All right, but for real, this
That was in the
episode,
game. I know it was.
all three of us have finished Dead Space 2.
Yeah.
And at varying experiences, I guess.
Continuing Isaac's crusade against the religion.
Yes. And so there are a lot of things that I want to talk about that happened throughout the game, specifically that I enjoyed quite heavily.
Okay. So let's give a synopsis, scene by scene. Let's go.
I don't know the easiest way to start it.
Can we start off with what pissed me off about the game right off the bat?
Whatever you want to do, jump into
You
it.
couldn't customize things?
Well, there's that.
You couldn't use your avatar? Oh, that would be kind of awesome.
No, I would not want my avatar. That would be sweet, though, if that pulled back and it was like my avatar
Your avatar.
cartoon. What's up, guys?
It might take me out of the game a bit.
And then it'd be like,
What? Then it's your avatar. Oh,
With a monocle.
you're like the helmet comes back and there's a stormtrooper head there instead.
hell yeah, that'd be the best. That would be the best.
All right. Anyway.
No, I was 10 seconds away from quitting the game
Okay.
right off the bat because you start off with no weapons and you're running blindly through this. And I
In
say,
a straitjacket.
I
and
love that
say,
open.
I say
I fucking love
blindly
that.
because, the classic flashes and it's like strobe lights and, things crash and things coming through the roof, necromorphs or necronomicons or whatever they call them.
I don't think that's it.
What are they called?
Necromorphs.
You got it right the first time,
Yeah, got to go with my gut. But necromomicons. Come on, that's sounds right.
Necromonicals.
Decepticons were falling through the roof.
I think that's right.
But I died probably like 4 times in the
Really?
first part.
Oh, wow.
And
I was playing on normal.
and I was
okay.
on casual. Yes.
Well, I don't think it mattered because your health was so down at that point that if you
Yeah.
got hit by anybody, I think you died. So you just had to maneuver around.
And
the
I
right
I
way.
liked that aspect of it. Well, I mean, for me because I survived it, but I liked it because but it did add that tension to it. And I'm like, because I hit that and I'm like, oh shit, because I thought at first that first necromorph, the dude who frees you and then turns into a necromorph, I thought he was going to cut you free accidentally.
There you
or some
go.
shit like that.
Which was awesome. I love that transformation scene where he's
Yeah.
like 2 inches from your face and his head is like expanding and exploding, and I thought that was awesome looking. But then you're running away and you hear those footsteps behind you. Because I'm playing the surround sound, so maybe it's different too, but you're going down this hallway and you hear things behind you and you don't want to turn around.
No.
But I wanted to turn
Yeah,
around.
I like see people in like rooms on the side. I'm like, good luck. See ya. I'm going over here later.
So I just heard the stomping, and both times I played through it, I wanted to turn around, and I never did. So I don't know if there was somebody there, if they were just doing the sound.
I'm going to attribute this to the fact that
someone was there.
I'm going to attribute this to the fact that Isaac was coming out of his the drugs that had kept him asleep or whatever.
Yes.
But honestly, I was a little taken out of the game by the fact that he didn't scream like a girl when that dude turned into a necromorph right in front of his face.
He was taking it, man.
That's what I was going to do.
That would have been awesome.
But instead, Isaac's like, this shit again? Seriously.
I gotta do this again.
So outside of that, but you got through it.
I got through it. I got through the game. I'll admit I did get through it, but not a really good way for me to start off the first game on a game that I really didn't want to play because of the scare factor. And then right off the bat, it's like, here you go. And I'm like, you suck.
You and I formed bookends then, because you had that at the very beginning. I had that at the very end and almost gave up playing the game.
Okay, so what's your issue with the end of the game?
Well, my issue with the end of the game was because I was playing on normal, and I had during the whole chase where you're being chased by the guy who regenerates from the first game. and I didn't realize how long he was going to be chasing me for.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or the fact that he would keep popping back up. And he was going to forcibly pop up no matter how much, no matter how I dealt with him. I was wasting too much ammo on him and the other necromorphs in front of me. So I got to that end battle literally with no ammo whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so, that first part where it's just your girlfriend by herself and she's coming at you. This was my process. Here, I'll hit you with a stasis and then I'll run over and smack you with this thing. And then I have to back up because if I try to smack you again, you're going to grab me, and then it's game over, and I have to start from the very beginning. And so then I would do that about 4 times until my stasis was done, and then it's me running around the rocks as she slowly walks behind me, going constantly, and I can't see anything, waiting for my stasis meter to go up 1 so I can hit her once more, and then do that. Then once you get past that, then you have all the little Rugrats running at you, and with their little Cthulhu tentacles flipping around and stuff, and then you can smack a couple of those, but, whatever. I kept dying, and I was getting livid at it. And then I took your advice and I bumped it down to casual. Yeah. And plus, because I had stopped, because I was playing it from the checkpoint, so it was dropping me right in front of that battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Constantly. And so I had to stop after about an hour and a half of that.
Oh my God, dude.
This is me that we're talking about.
I know.
And
you hit a wall.
Yeah. And so I stopped and I came back to it the next day, and so that was from a save point, and so I had like 3 detonator mines and maybe a couple of line shots in my ammo, and then I was coming at it at casual, and so that allowed me enough ammo to kind of buff my ammo up and take it on and whatever. But no, I almost quit. I almost seriously quit. I would kind of become frustrated. I talked about this a little bit on the last episode, where the frustration was interrupting my enjoyment of the game. Yeah. And so then I hit that, and it was like the ultimate in frustration. Yeah. Because there's nothing I could do. I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back to, go buy ammo or anything like that, because then I would just run into that regenerating guy again. And anyway. Yeah.
That's what I think I liked about the second disc the most, was the fact that a lot of the first part of the game, when you would meet a bunch of necromorphs, everything would lock down. Yeah. But in the second part of the game, towards the end there, you didn't have to kill anybody. You could just run your ass off.
You could run through a lot of them,
which I thought was just a totally different part. So I'm sitting there laying waste. And then I'm like, oh, that door's open. I can see that from here, because it was blue. And I'm like, well, shit. I went back to 3 or 4 save spaces before I got my eye punctured. Yeah. And set from there on, because I had wasted so much ammo on that guy after I got my eye punctured that it was ridiculous.
Oh yeah, me too.
And I'm like,
I was at 0.
You can't kill him. You can't kill him. But yeah, that kind of changed. I think that's why I actually enjoyed the second part and enjoyed the second disc, is because I got to run away, and I got to act like a pussy, and I had, it was fun. That was the best part about it.
That's a legitimate element of a horror aspect, right. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
Oh, and I've never used my stasis so much except in those, because it was like, pew, pew, and then I just run by everybody. See you, bitches.
And that's another aspect, though. You didn't play the first one, so you never saw that regen guy. Yeah. So you didn't really know what to expect either.
He was kind of a big aspect.
And you were blind going into that, of this guy's going to get back up, and there's no way you can stop him.
Different here, didn't he?
Yeah, he was a little
different.
He
didn't have those glowing eye things. the 4 eyes that kind of protruded out of his face. I don't remember those, at least.
In the first one?
Yeah, in the first one.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
I remember him being more like a regular lurker.
But regardless, you didn't know how to deal with him.
Yeah.
Because so you probably didn't know what to expect when he came back that first time.
I put him down. I don't know how many times, and then
Yeah.
I realized that the power had been open to that room, so that I could change that or pick the lock or
Yeah,
whatever. And
hacking.
and then that's
we
when I
didn't
was
talk
like,
about hacking.
then I was like, screw it, and I got through it. And then as I went on, and I was getting closer, I'm like, well, I'm getting close to the end because it's amping up, and I'm able to run through these villains. I'm like, I don't have enough ammo, so I had to go and redo everything. And once I realized that and played it from there, man, like that end part, I could go through a couple different times. Because she's awesome. I love playing her, and that sound it makes, the whole War of the Worlds, like
I fucking
Martians,
love
the Martians walkers.
when
that,
The foghorn sound.
Yeah, for me it was like all of a sudden it was like
That was from
the
the first game too,
Inception
right?
soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
because it's like that dong,
yeah, because that's
I
what the
did like
walkers
that.
are.
and
They
everything's
talk to each other.
shaking,
Yeah.
and you have the shadows of everything, and that thing's on fire, and
Yeah.
shit's blowing up, and I love that ending because it was. I in fact I was playing, and even though I was on casual, I got to a point where I'm like, this is fucking tense. Like,
Yeah.
just the music, the lighting, everything was just like stressing me out.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, and I loved it. I
Yeah.
loved being stressed out.
Yeah.
In particular, to the end, I was kind of like about the last boss because it was like, you go inside Isaac's head or whatever, and so you're fighting her within your head because they're trying to consume you,
Right.
so that they can bring back life to the marker. I don't know what exactly was going on. That's where
Well,
I
so
get
you
a
can't
little,
destroy it.
so you
Yeah.
can't destroy it. Yes,
Yeah, I mean,
right.
that's the purpose.
If they consume you, then you can't destroy it
Right.
because you're the one that made it. Blah blah blah. Whatever. I know that's where it gets a little convoluted with how the markers work and what exactly is going on with the necromorphs, and they don't explain
I think the
fully.
markers are supposed to be convoluted.
I do too. So,
be
but I want to
perfectly
know. I want to know
You
everything.
can't pick apart everything.
I want to know it.
The horror is not knowing, Jeremy.
No,
that's the
not.
point.
That's terrible storytelling.
That is not terrible storytelling. The horror
joking.
is in your imagination.
So I was kind of disappointed though with like, and maybe it was because I was on casual. We talked about that. Is
Yeah.
that I really only had to focus on her in that battle, shoot
Yeah,
her a
right.
couple times,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you shoot the big glowing spot,
which
and
I
then you do
had
that
to-
like 4 times, and you're done in like 30 seconds.
Which I unloaded all my weapon into her.
Yeah.
And then was like, oh, there's something in there beating. Awesome. So I'm like, gotta go back to my last save point.
you didn't have any ammo.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. When I played through on second time with it was a new game plus, and then I was on casual. It literally took me less than 30 seconds to beat. It took me less than 4 shots.
Yeah.
because I had super powerful weapons. So
Yeah.
I shot her once. She exploded from that one shot, and then the heart was exposed. And I think I shot. Well, I may have only shot like 3 shots. I think I shot like 2 line shots at it, and then it blew up.
See,
And that was
done.
it. I'm like, wow, that would have sucked if this was my first playthrough. I would have.
That's how it was for me. It's like all this build up, and then you get there, and it's like it was done before I knew it.
Yeah.
which I was okay with.
Which is
still,
something
though.
similar to what we had with Alan Wake.
Yes.
I mean, which was again, a horror built thing, and so it's about almost more about atmosphere than about the boss battle.
It's about getting there, not necessarily what you
Yeah.
do at the end.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we talk, and that seems to be a prevalent issue with games like this anyway, of what they do at the end, and it's never going to be able to live up to the 10 hours that you spent getting to that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be able to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I think they really made up for it with the amounts. I felt, even though I like the second disc a lot better, I feel like they amped up a lot of the rooms and a lot of the necromorphs in some of the rooms that made it feel like so overwhelming.
Oh, God,
I'm gonna
yeah.
get my ass handed to me. I'm not talking about the ones that are shut down, because there's a couple big rooms where they just kept coming and coming and coming and coming.
There are a
and
couple
coming.
sections where they're endless
just have to go.
spawning until
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
and that really didn't feel like it was the case in the first one at all. It
No,
was
you
like
didn't- you didn't have
could
those.
empty a room.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it's kind of off-putting when they have a room that's not going to empty. If they're just going to keep coming.
But in
You can
those
you gotta hear
situations,
for 'em
somebody
to-
always is shouting at you, "Get out of there!" or
Yeah.
whatever.
Move
So
forward.
it's not like the game was just leaving you abandoned there. It was trying to tell you to do that.
I had a couple
But I
different
agree with
problems with the audio on certain
Really?
things like that, because when she was talking to me in my mind,
Yes.
a lot of times
I
I,
had to turn
couldn't
on
understand.
subtitles.
Yes, so did
I'm
I.
like-
I couldn't understand what she was saying. I could hear it, but not. It wasn't distinctive enough.
I couldn't understand what she
I've
was
had this conversation with folks online too, and and the solution from them was, well, turn on the subtitles. And my issue is that's a reactionary solution to a problem that I didn't know I needed until after it was already too late.
Exactly.
Like, well, yeah, that's great. But also in a game that prides itself on its audio design, it seems like a misstep to have audio that pertains to the story and the plot potentially to be lost because it's so garbled and
I think
muffled.
she was just taunting you mostly, though.
For the most part, but then there's parts in particular when you get to the eye thing where the first time through I didn't know what was going on because I couldn't understand what she was saying or what was being said with other sounds, and I think it's that thing is going wrong and there's like bass going on, and so there's so much stuff going on that I kind of missed what was happening there until my second time through. And I think that's kind of just not layered properly for a game that's so audio driven.
Yeah. No, there were points where that was definitely the case. And on my first playthrough, when I was experiencing massive amounts of frustration, I would be like, whatever, bitch, I can't understand what you're saying. So,
and most of the time was her
talking,
just being a bitch.
Yeah.
Like, trying to. So for most of the stuff, it wasn't an issue.
That was something that I kind of had an issue with because, through a large portion of the beginning of the game, she's being a bitch to you, essentially. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, Isaac, we're together. And then, you get to the end and it's like, it's time for you to die. And he's like, what? I'm like, duh.
Yeah, exactly.
What the fuck did you think was going to happen here?
He's such a sucker.
He is.
She's sweet to him when she wants him to do something.
He is. And they did actually try to build up the fact that, he was believing that he was seeing her because he felt so guilty about all this. And I did like that they kind of built on that whole relationship from the first game.
Yes.
And made that an important aspect of Isaac's character here because, he didn't really have a character in the first game per se. And so that was just it was a plot point, but it wasn't really something that was really developed very much other than Isaac came to the Ishimura to look for his girlfriend.
And since we've mentioned it a couple times, how about how fucked up that eye thing is? That needle in the eye thing?
That is.
Seriously,
I
when that happens,
thing a lot
but
I
it's
thought it was really cool.
fucked up.
It is.
It was really uncomfortable for me. Like that was probably the most uncomfortable thing in the game.
Especially when if you keep moving, then his heart rate increases and his eyes going all over the place.
Yeah.
By the way, I learned if you poke directly into a pupil, it's okay. Your eye will just bleed a little. If, however, you miss that pupil, the eye will explode.
That's right.
I never saw the eye explode. See,
My second time I missed it.
I sat there.
Yeah,
it's like moving that thing around forever.
Oh yeah. No, I took my time.
No, I mean I didn't know what I was like. Okay, I've got it lined up. Okay, it's lined up.
You're trying to do like laser eye surgery.
It's still lined up. What am I supposed to do? And then I hit like
down
A or whatever.
A.
And then all of a sudden started going. I'm like, you mean I got to stick that in his fucking eye?
I think that's what's brilliant about that scene because it's that realization that you're the eye of that same reaction. I'm like, what am I doing here?
And me too.
And then I'm like, I have to do what?
Why do I have to do this?
Yes.
Yeah.
How?
This is not
How
fair.
am I able to do this? Oh man. Yeah.
Don't force my hand to do it. And then it's the noise, and it's just that idea of, because I hate needles anyway, but the idea, and I hate anything to do with eyes too.
Yeah.
So it was a bad combo for me.
And it looked awesome. There are a lot of those aspects where I felt it didn't take away from the game. I'm not saying I love the game. It's not the best game of the year for me, but it was those little aspects, those little audio things, those little pointers.
That's what they do really well.
Well, it was the ones that they were awesome about the game, but at the same time, I was upset with some of them because I felt like in the couple of those levels where you just had to keep moving.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that. I almost need those. It was like the same thing I had kind of a problem with when I had Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Was with the napalm buckets in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I almost need
because they shout that stuff too.
Yeah. I almost need a little bit of more of a heads up to it.
Video games these days are much more of a full sensory experience.
And that eye thing with no buttons or nothing showing
and
what to do.
That works for me because I'm by myself here, and so I can turn that stuff up, and me anyway. I'm waiting until like past 8 p.m. to play it with the lights off and then the volume turned up. So
in your homemade engineer suit.
Yes, in my homemade engineer suit.
Mine were all day plays,
Mine for the most part, but honestly, I didn't have.
Actually, there's a practical reason why I play at night in the dark because because then I can see things a little better.
Yeah.
I find glare on the television to be a little.
Why? I keep my house like almost like a cave.
So you do play in the dark.
Yes, but it's light outside. At least I know it's light outside.
He can put the game down and open a window.
Yeah, I can I can open a window and it gets bright. Yeah.
So, how about some of the set piece stuff in the game?
Right, because this is a very different environment.
Yeah, and so in the first game, you're running through on the tram, going from area to area.
Yep.
Now you're in like a living space that really just has more of a flow of you going from one section to another without there being a break of a tram ride in between. Going to a station.
Yeah,
elevators, corridors, all the good stuff.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think what the first big set piece was, and it's probably that train that you have to get on.
Yes.
And then it derails, and it has that whole scene where you're hanging out the bottom of it, shooting those things, which I thought was awesome.
That was great, yeah.
And so it's little things like that I love about that game, where they completely turn you on your head, and like you're still in control, but not in a normal scenario.
Right, and I think the game did that really well, where it would do those big change-ups. Another example of that is when you're dealing with the solar array above.
Yeah,
and by the way,
done like 4 of those.
Could I tell you how awesome that was?
Yeah, no, it's really cool. But I gotta admit, when I got in that solar array room and I saw that seat over there, I'm like, is that a fucking turret?
Me too.
I'm like, that looks like the fucking turret seat.
Remember, we talked about it, and I had already been to that part, and I said, there's no turret sections. I'm like,
well, I didn't know you had been to that part
exactly.
yet.
So what I said to you was, there's no turret section. I thought there was going to be, but there wasn't. It turned out not to be. But that's exactly what I thought when I got there. I'm like, it's going to be a fucking turret. And makes me feel that they did it on purpose.
Oh, I'm sure.
They just played with you.
They did a lot. We'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah.
But the reason I brought it up was because it was the whole ejector seat and you sitting in there and then that intense ejection. And then, all of a sudden you're free falling. You're not free falling. You're like propelling yourself as fast as you can towards the ground. And I'm like, this is a good idea right now, but I think in a couple seconds it's going to be a bad idea.
But that solar array, when you walk out and they have you go in, you go out into space and you walk around that corner and all of a sudden you see the fucking mirror and everything and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And that was one of those moments for me where I'm like,
it's
this
like the
game
engine
is
room.
amazing.
Yeah.
Nope.
Like, and then they do the new 0G, so you're flying around that area in that space and you can kind of flip it around
nice,
and reposition. And I just thought it was awesome. I
really
loved that part.
And I like the living spaces. I think the living spaces did a nice job of making it feel like this is an environment that just got ravaged by this outbreak of necromorphs.
Yeah.
And I really had this sense that, like, a couple hours ago, people were just living their daily lives here, and now it's totally gone to shit. And I think that had a nice impact on the atmosphere for me as well.
And they also do that in one of those living spaces where they have those people that are still there, and they're like running out, and they're like, "I'm not leaving my mom" or something like that. And then you go into that room, and there's like somebody crawling out of the thing, which was awesome.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's really cool stuff there. But yeah, to get back to the idea of them playing with stuff.
Yes.
They definitely intentionally play with stuff. And some of the play comes from the first game. So there are elements in Dead Space 2 that play off of having some experience with Dead Space 1. I don't think that they're going to be completely mind-boggling to anybody who hasn't played Dead Space 1. It's just going to wash over them, and they're not going to see that that's a reference or something like that. So some of the things were, for example, when you do get on the tram, and I got on the tram and I'm like, oh, here we go.
Right.
But and then as you're trying to progress down, and then all of a sudden something obstructs they're like, well, I hope you can make. At least you don't have to go to the medical bay or whatever. Right. And I'm sorry, this is on the Ishimura. And so the fact that the Ishimura was in there was a great element.
That happens, and I about shit my pants because I was not expecting it whatsoever, and I was completely surprised. And so when you get in that elevator and you're going up, and Isaac's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, the Ishimura sitting there, and she's like, oh yeah, it was a terrorist attack. And he's like, bitch, that's like what all this shit is.
Yeah, I like that scene. I liked that
and it was
scene
awesome.
a lot.
And I never, even though it was there,
you didn't expect to go in.
I never expected that whole chapter 10 of like, you get to go on the Ishimura again.
And you get in there.
So awesome.
And it's the hallways, and you're like, oh shit, this is where they're going to come out? That's what. But then they don't for the longest time in there.
Not until you get to that one area where you first got your stasis.
Yeah.
That hallway. When that thing comes busting down the thing, and he's like,
yeah.
"Roar."
Well, but what's great is that you can kind of have a premonition because, you know, everything's been covered up with the paper and stuff because they're repairing the Ishimura. And then you get to that part, you come into that hallway and like all the paper has been torn. And I'm like, well, I think my free play is just about to end here.
but it takes a long time, and the entire time you're still expecting it on your first playthrough. So you're still going into every room like something's going to jump out at any time.
And they got the infamous decontamination room, which was the first real battle that
and
you
that's
had.
what I was expecting to fight.
Oh yeah, and I think
I found a corner and just stood there.
Oh yeah, same here.
Yeah.
And don't you even like see a necromorph kind of creep by, and like if you look real closely, I think you can watch one kind of sneak by one of the windows, and I'm like.
Well, yeah,
I'm standing there, just like, where are you coming from?
The
and then
use,
it finishes.
The use of that and this game was really kind of blew me away was to have, and I didn't like. I mean, I liked it, but at the same time, didn't like it. It was just having those one off shot. You know, they'd creep by, and you'd go down that hallway. There'd be nothing there, and it still wouldn't be nothing there. I mean, usually in most games they would pull you in, and that's how. And then you get to the end of the hall, and you're like, "Oh, maybe I missed it." And
it's
then
that tension. Yeah.
But this one, you get to the end of the hall and be like,
"It's nothing."
All right, elevator. All right.
I think the first one you experience in this game is when you first crawl through a duct. And by the way, the ducts. At first, I'm like, "Holy shit! I'm good." You know, I thought it was great, but then I quickly realized
they're pointless.
This is not going to be.
Yeah.
No, I liked them. I liked them as an experience, but as tension, it immediately vanished. When I'm like, I can't even pull a weapon.
Yes,
nothing's going to happen in here.
It would have been awesome if they would have at least had something visual happen, like pop in or like something goes through or falls through in front of you.
They had the one where you're around the corner and you can see the necromorph legs and then it skitters away.
Yeah.
And that was at the first one.
But I mean something that in your vision. So like something sticks down or drops down through, and like, but you can't do anything.
Yeah,
that would have been awesome.
So you just got to kind of wait and you freeze like a cockroach.
Or even if it was just completely scripted, where it was always
that's
going
what
to
I'm
happen.
saying. That's what I'm saying. But because you can't get around it, so
exactly.
you're essentially freezing. Yeah.
So Ishimura, though, I am very, very glad because I debated playing through Dead Space 1 before going back into 2. I am super glad I didn't.
Oh yeah,
because I felt that it put me 100% more in character of Isaac because he's going back on the ship like 3 years.
Yeah.
That's been since he's been on there.
That's right, yeah.
I'm essentially 2 years out that I've been on that ship. So I remember things, but not like 100%.
Yeah.
But everything was coming back. And so it was awesome to go in completely, 2 years absent.
Right.
Yeah.
And almost have the same thing of like, this is really familiar, but I still don't remember everything about it, which I loved.
Yeah.
So I was completely suckered in and I fell in love with it at that point.
When I got to the train, I almost got a little bit upset because I remember that being a really big part about the first one I didn't like was the trans.
but it continued to be continued to be fluid.
Yeah, and it did, and it was. I thought it was fantastic, and I just
then
whole
it goes,
use
oh,
of that. Oh,
Yeah, at least I don't. They're all in the medical
At least
bay.
you don't have to go to the medical bay. Yeah. There's an obstruction. Welcome to the medical bay. Oh, crap.
And I love, some of the discussion back and forth between him and Ellie, too, where she was like,
They had some
there's
good
things
lines.
happening. He's like, I can't talk right now.
Yeah.
And then you get through that big thing. He's like, all right, no, it's not safe here. Because he was like shooting everybody that whole time.
Yeah,
which I really
cool
liked.
stuff there.
And I loved like the 0G of having to go through that train tunnel, like when you're going back through.
Yeah.
And I thought that was awesome. There was just a lot of awesome stuff on that chapter that I was not expecting.
Right.
It came out of nowhere for me.
Yeah.
So awesome.
I agree.
and I know
it was standout.
Well, maybe it was the first one I didn't play because I didn't play it completely through it. But I always felt like a lot of the 0G I was more afraid in the first one, like when I did go outside because you couldn't hear anything.
Yes.
This one didn't really have.
It had more sound.
It had a little bit more sound, but not
No
as-
enemies.
It had, but they were from afar, or they were shooting at you from afar, so it was easy to find out where they were at instead of it being. This is on my back right now because that was what would scare the shit out of me in that first one. When all of a sudden I'm taking damage and I turn and it's just like, but I'm making the noise. Of course,
Right,
'cause there's
exactly.
no noise.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, the tension for the outside was much less than it was in the first game.
And even 0G.
Maybe that's why I liked.
Because in the 0G, they would have those wall crawler things.
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
here, they have a couple of those 3 tentacle ones.
Yeah.
And those show up once in a while. But in the first one, in Zero G, you would have the ones that with the tails that I hate that would crawl around, and those would be in there, and they'd be jumping across the room at you.
Yeah.
Which was always hilarious.
Which was funny,
They're
but
Supermaning at you.
but sometimes you wouldn't expect it, and you turn
No,
around
yeah.
and he'd be fucking flying
Yeah,
at you, and you're like,
exactly.
holy shit. And so I was expecting it, but you didn't ever have a fight in Zero G, and
Yeah.
I wonder if it was because of the way the motion worked.
You did have a couple fights in Zero.
Did you?
Not-
I mean, you had some of the three
Just with the three tentacles.
tails. Yeah.
Yeah.
But nothing too. I just always
But
felt
not with any of those other dudes.
I think so.
And I
don't
didn't
think
make
so,
it that
yeah.
far in the first one, but the first couple Zero Gs that I would go through, it was with like a big guy.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh
And,
yeah.
and they didn't really throw that.
They didn't
in
really
as
have the mini
second
bosses
one.
like they did.
Nope,
So-
that was another thing that was weird to me.
Well,
is that-
I think that again that goes to the fluidity. It was less like a structured video game and more like a one constant experience.
there weren't chapter stops.
right
Because
yeah.
I was burning through it so fast, and I was like, why am I playing
Well, yeah.
this so fast? And it was because it just flowed.
because I was waiting for dark before I started playing, and I think I was editing a podcast as well, and so it was like 8 o'clock, and I log on and I see you guys are both on there playing, and I look to see how far you've gotten and whatever, and it's like, Jeremy, Chapter 7. This is on Tuesday. I'm like, what the fuck?
I couldn't stop, and I also think that the first 2/3 of the game are so much quicker than the last third.
Yeah.
Like, I think that the last sections are stretched out longer.
Oh, they can go pretty quick. It depends on how you handle it. I think.
What I think is how I felt was
10 is really long.
1 through 9
Yeah.
was probably about as long for me as 10 through 15 was.
Yeah, I could see that.
And it's just those first ones like flowed so much, and because they were a little shorter, some of them were shorter. But 10 was super long.
10 was
like that is a long
10
chapter.
was really, really long.
I think from that point on, I really felt
Because it was the entire time you're in the Ishimura.
No, yeah.
from 10 on, I felt the chapter breaks.
Yeah.
Before that, I didn't, because from 10 on, you had the drill that you get and
Oh,
get
yeah.
on. So when you crash into the building, that ends that. When you're in the building, you get to the point where you open up the
my favorite
thing,
part.
and that starts the next one where you shut down
That's
the
true,
power.
yeah.
And so those really felt like chapter breaks. And in the first one, I didn't find a lot of those. It kind of just moved on and on
Yeah,
and on.
no,
Yeah.
I did.
You like that part with the?
I was a big fan. When
you ruined everything?
Like I was a huge,
Isaac?
huge fan of the second disc. And the minute Isaac, on that drill, I thought that was funny. I had the dialogue was fun.
You realize I'm out here, right?
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many, and I didn't really ever feel I was,
I'll just hotwire it from here.
I was hurt. What? Yeah, and there was a lot of other
I
things
got it.
happening on. And
Yeah.
and it wasn't, and then and then I'm like, well, sweet, I get to take on humans, but that wasn't the case, and I got over that.
Yeah,
real
I was
quickly.
really looking forward to that too. Where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to shoot some humans now.
You're
looking
looking
Forward to it?
Hell yeah!
Oh my god, you got
Well, because I didn't want any more creatures.
Exactly, I can deal with people in suits a
Fair
lot
enough,
better
fair
than
enough.
guys.
Dismembering them though.
Hell yeah! Put them to the wall.
It's not like I hadn't dismembered bodies up until that point.
Yeah, and they were going to be attacking
But they were
me.
evil.
No,
these
just
guys
dudes
were evil
laying
dudes.
around.
Laying around.
Because I ain't letting
Well, yeah.
anybody pop up.
Oh, that was something that was different because that was not nearly as big of a threat. Because in the first game,
Let's talk about this.
that
Oh,
became
yeah.
a modus operandi for me. Corpse, you're losing a couple legs in your head because then, at very least, I only have to take one shot to kill you. And there were points where the little manta ray dudes resurrected corpses,
Right.
but they were always in areas before you could even get to any
you
of the
saw it
bodies down
happening.
there. Yeah, you had to face them.
They really played on that when you were entering areas last time,
Yeah.
where it's like you had already been through, so now you
Yes.
go back again and they're reanimating some of those guys. And they did it a lot less where the guys popped up, even though I did it for most of the game. And there was one section, both of my playthroughs, that I got completely lazy and complacent, and the guy popped up and got me.
That's awesome.
And it was the same thing. I'm like, and the second time I did it, I fucking laughed because
Yeah.
it scared me, and I did it, and I'm like, same fucking dude.
I
Like, how
should've
did I
known
not
that,
remember
yeah.
this? But here's the thing, and this is what's brilliant, and it's the same thing that they did with the elevators, where you're programmed to. At any time, anybody could drop into this elevator.
Yeah, yeah.
At any time, somebody could pop up.
Yep.
Now, all they need to do is do it once in the fucking game.
Right.
Or never.
Yeah.
Because you'll still think that it's going to happen at any time. It's the fear of it happening that now they don't even have to do it.
Yeah.
And so there's one elevator that a guy pops in the entire Dead Space 2.
Yep.
One elevator. Every elevator ride I was in, I was aiming down my gun.
Oh yeah.
But there was only one time that it occurred.
yeah.
And so even knowing that on my second playthrough, I couldn't remember which one it was. So I still had to do it until it happened, and then I didn't worry about it anymore. But that's brilliant. It's the programming of your head of it could happen anytime.
Yeah.
Now we don't ever have to do it.
Yeah. There are a couple points. Did either of you guys have points where you yelled at the game? It's like, why are you retracting your helmet, Isaac?
Yes.
Like, there are scenes where he retracted his helmet, and I'm like, what is the advantage of doing this?
Yeah, it's when
Strauss, when you're fighting Strauss, was one situation where
and he's got the
poke,
screwdriver.
Yeah, he's trying to poke
and I'm
her
like,
eye
why
out.
did you take your helmet off, Isaac?
That is the dumbest thing.
Leave it on.
ever.
Let him clink it as much as he wants.
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
Oh, I don't know why he left him with her anyway.
Well, he didn't know he was suicidal
he thought
homicidal.
he needed him because Strauss knew how to destroy the marker.
I know, but why didn't he just tie the fucker up, man? He was a psycho.
Oh, well, yeah,
seriously.
that I didn't
Well,
understand.
technically, so was Isaac, and Isaac knew that he was in the wrong place for wrong reasons. I mean, he wasn't.
That's true.
So, I mean, he's probably a sympathizer.
I know, but I would have been like, you should probably try this guy. You know?
Well, but technically, then you'd be saying you should also probably tie me up too. 'cause-
But I'm
you be
the one
worried,
helping you out. I'm not even next to you. You have to sit in the room with this guy the rest of the time that I'm out trying to turn this machine on.
Yeah.
So tie him up. Because he's trying to stab you with a pen.
I hate the game now. Although,
Mission
how,
accomplished.
how can I? How
Should
did
get
he?
achievements
How
now
did he
for that.
stab her eyeball the sideways way and pull it out? Because it's on the screwdriver, like with her pupil standing.
Oh, was it?
Like,
I wasn't
this
even
way.
paying attention.
Because he got in there. Right there.
She was trying to look away. You're not going to look straight at that
Yeah.
thing when it's going in your eye. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's
looking
perfectly
away.
on there, like he went through this way.
She was looking
Yeah.
at an angle, and he came in at an angle.
Like that.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
There.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
two 45-degree angles make 90 degrees.
I got you.
He had his protractor out. It's like
That shit was perfect.
compass. They were all setting it up.
Actually, that was on loan from Neversoft.
Exactly.
Nice.
So that was weird.
Eye gouging happening. She recovered pretty damn well from
She
an
was
eye
good to go.
gouge.
So let's talk about the end real quick. Again, I love the false ending
Oh yes,
because Isaac's sitting down playing.
well, this is
little,
kind of a spoiler for Sean.
why he got no.
He didn't finish the first game.
I know, but that's not the part I'm talking about yet.
Oh, I'm
I like
sorry.
this.
The Ripley stuck on the tower ending.
The sit down where he's
Oh,
like,
yes.
"Woe is me, emo Isaac." I
had a feeling
the-
it wasn't over yet.
right because they're going to
but
continue
they
the game.
did throw out the credits.
But I loved it. The credits start rolling. I'm like, this is really how it's going to end. He's just sitting there.
I thought that was badass.
and then
I
they
did
crash
too.
in, or she pops up on her little thing, and I thought that was awesome. I love the false
I kind
ending.
of liked the ending because it was a little uplifting. It was a little heroic.
Yeah.
As opposed to the first game where it's kind of like, yeah, you survived. Sort of.
Yeah, because in the first game, how it ends is that you blow up the planet. You put the marker back on the planet, you blow it up, and he gets away in his ship, and he's flying. He's like, oh, and he retracts his helmet, and it's like the first time you see his face in the game.
Yeah.
At that point.
Well, except for the very beginning.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, because he does have his helmet off then, and he kind of sits back, and he sits up, and he looks over
Because he hears something.
and the camera pans over, and it's
Nicole comes in a little bit.
necromorphed, and she's all like,
and then she jumps. And actually, because that was
And
one.
that's how it ends.
That was one.
Oh, so that's why.
Yes.
Oh, I like the ending because like he was like, never mind. So I knew it had to be
because he's like,
something.
stop there, and then he
Because
like,
there's that
looks over,
tension, and
still.
and I'm sitting there. I'm like, you're not going to do the same thing again, are you? You're not going to do the same. And then he looks over. What? and
then it
then
ends.
it just cuts.
I
And I'm
like-
like, that's funny.
I like
Right.
any game that when I put because I always wait for the credits.
Yeah.
Never used to before. Now it's just it's
'Cause
what
of
I do.
movies?
There was stuff after this credits,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well, I had the controller down and I was off the couch. And so they started showing credits, and then all of a sudden she comes breaking in, and I'm like, okay, and I'm like, fuck, I gotta control this guy.
Because you set it down. I've done that
It's
before.
like holy, because I'm like, oh, this is sweet. He's gonna get saved, and I'm on my way to the kitchen. I'm like, awesome. No, I probably had to get on the ship.
You know,
Yep,
story wise
I did.
though, I did like the fact that he was okay with like that ending too. Like he destroyed the marker, and he's like, that's fine. Like I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Like I can go out now. And then she's like, oh, I'm saving you. But yeah, at the end of the regular credits, there still was a little tag too. With those dudes in the audio saying that it was destroyed, and the guy's like, whatever, we'll just have to pick up the pieces.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's do this shit.
Well,
Because now Isaac's going to track down that shit.
maybe
Destroy all the markers.
Dun-dun-dun.
He don't care. And now Ellie's going to help, and the next game's going to be co-op.
I did like something.
Spoiler.
A chick rig.
No,
That'd be
that's kind of
awesome.
what I'm thinking too,
Yeah.
because they really built up their camaraderie
I did,
in this
yeah.
first one.
They did.
And showing her using the plasma cutter a lot. I think that was a lot of foreshadowing for
I agree.
a co-op capability, especially adding the multiplayer. Yeah.
Or either have it
awesome.
have that enslaved type of feel.
Yeah, so it's something going on there. Yeah, she's going to be an element in the third one. To go back, because we were talking about the ending for Dead Space 1 a little bit ago. I also liked because you ended there, and most people just assumed, oh, well, Isaac's dead now.
Yeah.
You know, you assumed that he got attacked by one more necromorph, and so they don't actually go into explaining, how Isaac survived it, but I think there are clues there because he's hallucinating Nicole throughout the entire thing, and so I think what you're supposed to do, and especially because she's so aggressive in his hallucinations, especially early on, I think you're supposed to just assume that was a hallucination, and this was his madness that he was developing that he has throughout this entire game.
Yeah,
and so I think that was a nice thread to kind of connect to this ending that seemed to have one punctuation mark on it, but then in order to have a sequel, it had to kind of change that punctuation mark.
So do you feel now that by destroying the marker that he's free of the madness?
No,
or is he still just fucked?
I think he's still somewhat fucked. I don't think he's as fucked as he was. Like I think that's the whole point of having the battle in his mind is to kind of break some of that connection, but it's a horror story, so the connection's always going to be there to a degree.
It's the whole like Ring and Grudge and all those Japan fucking horror movies where there's no ending, even though they end it.
It did kind of spiral into that towards the end there a little bit, but some of that was my protracted final battle with her, and damn it.
I want to know, and we talked about this on the show. I want to know.
I want to know why
we talked about it on this show. I can't remember where you yelled at me.
Why he hooked up with
about
that
the
chick
horror
to begin
movies.
with.
Who, Nicole?
Yeah.
It was his wife, or
no, his girlfriend.
The girlfriend before she went to the.
I know. I saw all the updates.
So what do you mean? Why'd he hook up?
She looks terrible.
Looks terrible.
She changed her hair between games. She had different hair in the first game.
Hey, when she's got controlled by the marker, I'd change a lot more than that, because even One Eye was better than her.
My problem is I want to know about unitology, and I want to know about the markers, and I want to know everything. And I know you saying that
the mystery is
the mystery is there, but I want to know. And so the book that's out, the Dead Space Martyr book, is all about Altman and finding the first marker on Earth and the start of the unitology. And I think I want to read that book because that's where I really have an interest in, is knowing that stuff.
That's fair.
And knowing where that kind of stuff comes from. Like, I want to know, why does the marker cause the necromorphs, or like how it's related to the necromorphs, and like all that other stuff. I understand the hive mind. I understand the collective.
I don't think you're going to get like a scientific explanation.
I know.
There, Jeremy.
Well, I know I'm not going to get scientific, but I want to know a story reason. I mean, that's natural, right? To want to know.
It's creepy. It's unknown horror. And I'm perfectly fine not knowing that stuff, because actually that kind of enhances it to me, because then I'm like, Isaac, I have no fucking clue why this shit is happening, but it's happening, and so I don't have the time to sit around thinking about, I wonder why they think that this is important. What's the convergence?
But how did he rebuild the marker? Like, what does that stuff even mean?
Lasers? Didn't you see the factory? No, I don't know.
Like, I understand the imagery, and people, like, they were talking about that stuff was laid throughout the game of, like, they were recreating it out of objects, so they were recreating the marker out of popsicle sticks and things like that. But, like, how does he create this huge ass marker that's on there and all this other stuff? That's all the stuff I want to know. The convergence and what the hive mind does when they all
You're
converge.
a completionist.
I am. I want to know.
And that's not a criticism.
And I kind of love that there's those other outlets, and I want them to fill out the story for me.
And I think that's why this IP expands in that way. It's similar to Star Wars, where there are a lot of things explained in Star Wars, but there's so much that's not explained.
Exactly.
And so that's why you can have all these other stories spin out of it. And I kind of like that aspect of it. And if you don't want to find out more about those other things, if you just like saying, they exist, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Then you can just experience part of it. Or if if you're a completionist, you have all this stuff that you can continue to dig into.
But I think my problem is it still doesn't complete anything. And then I guess maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's a problem with an ongoing story, that they want to keep, milking out info. They don't want to give out everything.
It's It's an attribute of it, definitely.
That's what I meant. Attribute, not problem. It's a problem for me.
I think you're the problem.
That is true.
I did get a very Aliens vibe from this.
Yes.
From the very end of this, and which really, I mean, that first disc, I could throw it out. Honestly, I could throw that.
I'm so opposite.
disc
No, me
out.
too, yeah.
Because the second one for me, it was more my pace and more because it was a constant, and then it wasn't those intense moments. Like intense meaning build up, and then
the
smack me.
tension
the
moments.
tension moments. It was intense, yeah, but I was already there, so it was easier for me to deal with, and it was already happening, and I could deal with it in real time, I guess. But
And I think for me, when those happened,
love
I
that
couldn't
second
pay
disc.
attention to a lot of the peripheral stuff, and I think that's part of my favorite game of or part of the
yeah.
Dead Space experience is all the peripheral stuff, the sound, the design,
the
look.
tension is atmosphere.
Yeah. So when I'm running through and there are downtimes, then I get to appreciate how everything looks
Yeah.
and what's going on.
It's having an effect on you. When it's just constant action, then that's all that matters.
yeah.
I couldn't, well, because it was like the love, like especially when we were in the living quarters, like the apartment, the housing parts of it, and especially into like the elementary school and shit like that. That's when I was ready to tune out because it was like it was the background noise, it was the music, it was everything what
Kids
they
crying.
wanted us, yes, which happened early on in the game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why they got to do that? Why they got to do that? And then when I walk into it, that when you got kids posters in elementary school, I'm like, this is gonna get bad. And then I go down even further. Oh, come here, little girl.
Oh yeah, the
It's like,
example.
meh, boom. I'm like, awesome. Can I go in there and kill this little thing now?
You hear the scene. That's why you should like seeing them. That's what I don't understand. You're just like, yeah, that's right, fuckers.
Yeah, but I just want to get it over with.
And blow them all up.
That level was the level I almost quit the game on.
Yeah.
I was
lost.
seriously, like, I paused the game, twittered like, I'm fucking done with it. I don't know what I said, like, get me out of this elementary school, I'm done with this game. And then like
It's not even that long of a level.
that was the thing. 2 seconds later, I unpause it, open a door, elevator, done, and I was
Yeah.
like, okay, all right. But it was up until that point, and it took me about 9 hours to get this game completed, a little bit under 10 hours to get the game
It
completed.
took me over 10 on normal. Yeah. It took me like about 6 when I went through on my second playthrough.
And most of my gameplay was like an hour and a half in intervals.
Yeah.
And it was literally the very beginning was me stopping because I had to stop. It was like game controller was sweated out.
Yeah.
It was exactly what it wanted to do.
It does what it does.
But once I got to that second disc, I remember just continuously playing and
it's very interesting to me that we're opposite in that way. Like I felt that in the first one, and then the second one I way slowed down because of the pacing.
No.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. I think it's awesome that we had different experiences.
Yeah, no, and I totally understand what you're saying there because this is why I'm the one who failed at Black Ops because as I said, I think when I talked about the game, they do a great job of simulating that experience, but it's an experience that I don't really care for.
So, it's too chaotic.
I mean, war is not fun.
No.
And so I don't have an enjoyable time. And so, if the tension is not enjoyable for you like it is for me, then I can completely understand, that flip around.
Word.
They do a really good job with sound and everything. I mean, I got to tip a hat to that game.
I was even still scared on the parts that were the demo, and I got back to it, and I'm like, shit. I don't want to do this again.
How far did the demo go?
The demo was partially. It's when you're in the church. Yeah, it's chapter 5. When you're in the church in the tombs, the frozen area, and then you go up through the church and you get swarmed by the kids, and then
the thing drops off the ceiling.
Thing drops off the ceiling,
and then you get swarmed by the kids, and then
do you go much further than that?
It's when you get up to the lady, the unitology lady, and the ship.
Oh yeah,
because
she's not there.
But they're not there. You just open that door,
which was awesome.
And the
ship shoots out the window, and
and then you fall, and then that's where it ends. But in the game, you get up there, and those people are there, and they grab you.
Which is
so that
great.
wasn't in the demo.
See, again,
Nice.
the producers were really playing with the audience, playing with your expectations, like you said, conditioning you to expect certain things, and then pulling the rug out from under you, or then pulling the rug out from under you a couple times, and then saying, "Oh wait, it's back," things like that.
That did that to me on the part where you come out and the helicopter's just unloading, because I think it goes from you come out of the elevator and goes to a total screen of you moving.
Oh, in the church?
Yeah.
When it blows out the windows and the air gets sucked out? Yeah.
And you're like moving, and then then all of a sudden your character goes to stand there, but I thought I was still watching, and I'm getting shot at. So I'm like, well, maybe I get shot at, and then they hold me hostage or something. So I'm like sitting there, and he's like, dude. I'm like, shit, I need to run, because the minute I push down, I'm like,
Are you talking about the soldiers
It might have been
in the government building?
Might have
Because
been
they've
then.
totally fucking killed me that first time.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, okay, don't shoot me, and then they totally shoot me up. I'm like, all right, that's not gonna work.
that was it. Yeah, that was the
You
part.
got to run across the hall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it was a total like screen part where it's moving
it's
for
like,
you.
what's going on?
Yeah. And you're like, hey, I can help you out. And then you're like, I'm fucking gonna kill you guys. And I'm gonna.
Well, I like the way he gets his revenge too.
Yeah.
I guess he needed to do that anyway to get kind of past them, but just lets all the necromorphs in.
Yeah, that works.
But
out
again,
well
that was the
for
part
him.
where I couldn't hear anything, and when I
Yeah.
turned on the subtitles, there was some cool stuff being said.
Yeah.
There you go. I had some audio issues that when too much stuff was going on, it got really screwed up. Like
Really?
it got really staticky almost
wow.
sounding. If there was too many enemies and I was shooting and they were making noise, and it just got really cut out, like staticky, like it sounded like an error, not like
Yeah.
not like
I don't think I
design
experienced
choice.
that.
So it was just almost over too powered. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
it was a problem with my speakers. I don't know.
Could be.
Probably not. Was that it? Do we have anything else we want to wrap up about it? I covered everything I wanted
I think
to
I
talk
covered
about.
everything I wanted
I love
to talk
it.
about. Yeah. I didn't expect the humor elements. Having Isaac talk, I wasn't quite sure how that was going to be because, I wasn't sure what sort of character they're going to give
Yeah.
him. But he had some really great lines in there. Some sort of, kind of ironic humor in his situation when he had a break or whatever and, junk like that. And that was a really nice experience for me. Like I said, frustration could get in the way and break up the flow, and that it ruined the experience. And really, I think the core of the Dead Space game is the experience that's going on.
Yeah.
Loved it. I want
It was
more.
good. It was good. There's a lot of things I liked about it. Just a lot of things.
So you're buying it?
No.
What?
He's going to borrow my copy.
You want to borrow one?
No. No.
I do want to go back to one now too.
Because I did. Did I mention on not in this show, but on our show last week? Is that the reason I didn't? Yeah, I blamed that my Xbox
Right.
for me
Right.
not playing one, but it's really because I'm a pussy. And it was like the first couple, like the first 0G, like where there's no volume, and I was getting attacked, and I was like, this is what this game's gonna be like, and I don't know if I can play it.
Aw,
But
yeah.
but then 2 comes out, and I just, you know what? But other than that, the heads-up display, everything about that game, other than the gameplay and the audio,
The lack of the heads-up display so much.
exactly, like the whole integration, and you guys talked about it like probably till the cows came home in the first, the first private chat of Dead Space, which I wasn't a part of, but I
Better
love it.
times.
I know, awesome when Sean wasn't a part of the show.
Oh, the happy yesteryears.
I know, I miss those days.
Oh.
That was a fun time.
Double,
too.
he turned that around on you. Did you hear that?
Whatever.
But no, I think that is it.
Yeah.
As a game mechanic, it is just brilliant. I love it.
And I've been seeing that integrated in a lot more games since then.
And I'd be happy if it. I mean, I just love the way it looks, and I love looking at
Blur
your
kinda
inventory.
has that, right?
Oh, well, just the way their menus are set up and things like that.
I mean,
Yeah.
for at least the power-ups and stuff, aren't they displayed on the back of the car? I never played Blur.
yeah. On the
Oh,
back
yeah,
of the
yeah, they're
car.
on the back of the
Yep,
car, yeah.
Yeah. I never played Blur, but I saw some screenshots.
Yep. Well, they
So suck it.
yeah, all this.
And I remembered it.
And I think that should be for all like games, having your health meter like that. And,
It's
just,
nice.
It's really a
Again,
neat
the
aesthetic.
experience is first
Yeah.
in the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really.
Totally.
But it is a frightening game
Awesome.
for me.
Well, if you at home have
Terrifying.
any thoughts on Dead
Yeah.
Space 2 that we didn't mention, or you disagree or agree with us, we'd love to hear
There's
from
nothing
you.
left. We picked it clean.
You can email us at comments@signedinpodcast.com. You can check out signedinpodcast.com. That is our website, and that has links to all our shows, our Twitter, our Facebook, all the other podcasts that are done, our forums, all that junk.
Everything.
Everything.
To talk games.
Let's talk it up.
Talk
Social
it.
security numbers.
We have
You
our
can find them
we have our
You
SSNs
can
on
set
there.
you can send those to us.
Oh, good, that's even better. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you.
Later.
Thank you.
for receiving this transmission. This has been a Pseudo Radio production. Repeat, this has been a Pseudo Radio production, copyright 2011.